What are you doing? They were all doing the same thing. Or were they? A man came upon a construction site where 3 people were working. He asked the first, "What are you doing?" And the man said, "I'm laying bricks." He asked the second, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm building a wall." As he approached the third, he heard him humming a tune as he worked. He asked, "What are you doing?" The man stood, looked up at the sky, and smiled. "I'm building a cathedral." That story may have sounded familiar to you. I used it last October in another context. I asked, "Why do we come to the shrine?" But like any good story, this story has many applications. On the surface, it's the story of 3 people doing the same thing. But obviously, it reveals 3 different meanings for doing the same thing. How would you describe their visions of work? First one, meaningless work. Doing what has to be done in order to have time for other things. The second had a sense of meaning. He understood that he was building a wall. The third understood the big picture. He had a vision of how laying bricks, building a wall, was part of building a cathedral. Today, I'd like to use that story to describe 3 different visions of marriage. How does this story apply to marriage? Actually, any vocation, single, vowed. How do you make sense of your life? But how do you make sense of marriage today? I might add that in addition to being a priest, I was a certified marriage therapist for many years. In fact, I was trained right here in University of Pennsylvania, and I worked with couples who were all over the lot with their understanding of marriage. For some, marriage had lost all meaning. They were bricklayers, placing bricks together. They were going through the motions of marriage, living together as strangers with very little satisfaction. For others, marriage was a relationship that brought them some measure of happiness. There was someone to share the joys and sorrows of life. They had no vision beyond themselves and their immediate family. I rarely saw couples who have gone through many stages in their understanding of marriage. Or I have seen couples who have gone through many stages in their understanding of marriage. Some hit the meaningless phase, and they never got any further. I have seen couples who started with visions which were basically romantic visions that inevitably soured in the glare of disillusionment. I've also seen couples who have passed through various crises and stages of marriage and found great meaning. They woke up to the meaning of what they thought they understood in the glow of first love. Actually, it's not just in marriage, but in any vocation, we spend our lifetime waking up to the implications of what God has called us to. By way of quick example, in my own personal life, I thought I understood what priesthood was about when I was first ordained in 1965. In 1990, when I celebrated my 25th anniversary, I thought I knew what it meant to be a Vincentian priest. Today, after 53 years, I realize I'm still learning what it means to be a Vincentian priest. I'm waking up to that. I'm reminded of the words of a Benedictine who in his 81st year, which happens to be my 81st year this year, said that he had learned more in the past year of his life than he had in the previous 80. Today, I would like to share with you a vision of marriage that is fully awakened, a marriage that goes beyond the secular marriage, even what many would describe as a beautiful marriage. To borrow words from St. Paul, I'd like to show you a more excellent way. How many of you have been to a wedding where they read the passage from 1 Corinthians chapter 13 that describe what love looks like, not in theory, but in action? You've heard it many times. Love is kind, love is patient, love bears all things, love hopes all things. This is the more excellent way that Paul speaks of, putting away the things of a child, waking up to what it means. Marriage, he concludes that passage with, "For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known." The liturgy describes marriage as a mirror of God's everlasting love. Marriage is being the image of God's freely given love. One of the prayers of the wedding liturgy says it this way: "The love of man and woman is made holy in the sacrament of marriage, and they become the mirror of your everlasting love." Think of it. We are made in the image and likeness of God who is love. We are to be love, not just play at love. The vocation of marriage is to be the mirror of God's love. And that's the meaning of what Jesus becoming one of us. Perhaps you may remember your mother saying, "Don't make me come in and show you how to do it." Yeah, they all went to the same mommy school. Well, that is what God has been saying to us for literally thousands of years. He tried through written words in the Holy Book. That wasn't enough. So finally, he took flesh, became one of us, came down to actually show us what it means to be made in the image and likeness of God. This is how God acts. God loves without limit. God loves not because we have earned God's love. God loves us just because we are. That's hard to understand. The closest we get to understanding that is in the love of a man and a woman who celebrate their love and with God call their child into being, and who love their child no matter what. The no matter what that Jesus showed us was his willingness to die in the cause of telling us how special we are as sons and daughters. Literally loving us no matter what. Jesus didn't come to change God's mind. He came to change our minds, to show us the more love to show us the love that we are trying to describe in community really looks like. So married people are doing much more than building a cathedral. In marriage, people dare to respond to God's call to mirror God's love. The prayer that I referred to before in the wedding liturgy says it better than I. You created us in your love to share your divine life. We see our high destiny in the love of husband and wife, which bears the imprint of your own divine love. Love is our origin. We were created in and for love. Love is our constant calling. God is calling us to wake up. Love is our fulfillment in heaven. When all is said and done, we will put away the things of a child and realize that we are one with God and one with one another. The vocation of marriage is to mirror God's love. When we realize that, it changes everything. Paul's beautiful hymn on love makes sense and calls us forward. It's a powerful vision, especially when two people commit to it. We get some insight into the kind of love that God has for us when we see two people waking up to what it means to love no matter what, to love as God loves us no matter what. I think that's an amazing vocation. Of course, the teacher in me wants to suggest homework. Go home and read the first epistle of Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 13, as a description of what it means to be about being the mirrors of God's love. That's the cathedral that married people are building. No wonder when they understand that more as they go through the process of life, no wonder they are humming. No wonder they are happy.